depression, major depression, most of my life.
Right.
Most of my life. And so I know what that's like to be in that state, right? Where you wear it. And I don't know if that was your experience, but certainly mine. I'm like wrapped up in it and can't see a way out.
Yes.
And so to be able to even just like lift your head up a little bit and see like, oh, maybe there's something else out there.
Exactly. And I was at that state, where I was completely drowning myself in the sorrow, and there's no hope. And, I've done my best, and I don't think I could go on anymore. And it's like, give your head a shake, the whole world is waiting for you to come out and shine. And, so that's me, trying to build up my own confidence, right? I shouldn't have to depend on somebody else to boost my own ego. I should be able to get up and say, hey, I'm going to kick ass today, and that's what I'm going to do. Right. So,
yeah. And that's truly, right, becoming the heroine of your own life.
Yes.
Where you realize like, okay, I get to choose. I get to choose. Exactly. And not to negate or minimize the challenges and, the kind of elements of life that you've navigated, I've navigated, that people navigate. But within that, we have a choice.
We do.
We have a choice. Yeah. Yeah. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
Nobody is stuck in one situation. There's always a solution on how you can come out of this or that. And that's why I love connecting with other women too, right? Because you just don't know what goes on behind closed doors at home until you open up with somebody. You're like, oh, okay. So I am part of the Ottawa Basketeers, which is an organization that collects baskets of new items for women and children that are fleeing from domestic violence. So I monitor the Facebook page, and I, put up posts, and that's my way of contributing, because I taught my kids, just because we live a certain standard of living, the couple with the two beautiful kids and the perfect home, it's not always perfect, right? And we come from all walks of life, and I just, got my kids involved with it. So we would go shopping of what we think that, a family might need, and we, dolled up the baskets, and off they went. And that was very rewarding. But it came to the point where it's like, I got to do something else now. So that's when I said, okay, if you need somebody to help out with a Facebook page, I'm totally for it. So
nice. And how good that feels to give back.
Oh, it does. It does. Definitely.
Yeah. And I think it's, you made a really good point that often we look at other people and we see their highlight reel.
Yes.
And we think that we can have this tendency to think that everybody else has got it figured out. And going on, right?
Yes.
And that we're the only one who's struggling, or we're the only one who maybe thinks this way or feels this way, or doesn't know how to, figure stuff out. And so I think it's so important to know that we all struggle at times.
Exactly. And it got to the point where I'm used to FaceTiming my mom every day, right? And it got to the point where I was like hiding from my mom because I didn't want her to see how unhappy I was, right? So I started shutting family out, and that's not me, right? And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm sacrificing my family who loves me and values me because I'm too proud to say I'm unhappy, right? And what am I going to do about it when my mom has been my biggest supporter? She has helped me so many times with my kids. She flies out, it's because of COVID, she hasn't flown out, but she's flown out a few times because I've had to go away, and she'll be here for the kids. So, I wouldn't have been able to have my career without my parents, because I needed that, backup family plan, and they always pulled through for us. So.
And so important, I think, to recognize that for most of us, we have people that love us.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And
not to be afraid to call up somebody and say, I'm struggling. I'm going through this, and it goes with shame and guilt and everything. And then the tension just builds up, right? So I just got back from holidays. I went away, and my tension in my neck is gone. And I'm like, this is amazing. So that's me letting go of stuff, right? And which feels good but I don't want this to return because
Yeah.
again, I feel like, okay, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do this. And I'm the type of
Mm,
person that will wrap myself up into whatever comes my way. And I'm trying not to be that person anymore because I
yeah.
want to focus on me. So people are like, are you going
Yeah.
to work after you retire? No, I'm going to focus on me, maybe a couple
Yeah.
years. And if I
Yeah.
want to, maybe I'll work part time or maybe I won't. I don't
Mm,
know yet. So,
mm. And how amazing that you have this space and you're giving yourself the space
yes,
to say, okay, this is really my turn, my time to figure out who is Jamie now
yes,
and what does Jamie want for her life.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious, what if you could give yourself advice at any point in your life, what would it be?
Um, I think to not be afraid to speak up for yourself
Mm,
because, again, coming from a home where, boys did boy things, girls did girl things, then I joined the military, that was out of the norm. And then the military, you are taught to be a certain way and be
mm.
respectful of the chain of command. And nobody's going to bite your head off. And I always tell people, if you don't speak your mind, what's the worst they're going to do? Take away your birthday? I said they could have mine. They can't, because if we don't speak up for ourselves or for others,
Mm,
we're never going to be able to change anything. And
mhm.
again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it either because
Yeah.
it's honesty is the best thing, right? And I'm the type of person that brings home that guilt and it's like, oh my god, what I should have said this or I should have said that. And it's got
Yeah.
to the point where it's like, you
Yeah.
know what, this is what I think, this is what we should do, and whether they agree with me or not, well, at least I had a chance to voice my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being at peace with bringing yourself fully into your life.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I was trying to think, when did I really learn to speak up for myself? And I thought, was it at the warrant officer rank when I was sailing? And I thought, no, no, it wasn't. I was a corporal in Edmonton, and we had gathered up our little group in the cage, we called it, where we housed all our medical gear for the field. And we
Mhm.
were, collaborating with our peers and we all came up with some ideas, and then they looked at me and said, Jamie, you're going to go present it to the chain of command. I thought, why me? Why me? Right. But it's like they picked me to be their leader. So off I went to this meeting, like all scared, like, oh my God, are they going to accept my ideas? And they did. Right. But it was a team effort. And I'm all about the
Yeah.
team approach because, being an individual, I could probably say in my early stages of my career, you're continuously trying to prove yourself. It's like,
Mm,
I did this, but
mhm.
you can't be an I person, you have to be a we
Yeah.
person, right?
Yeah.
So I really try to promote the team approach now.
Mm.
But I've
Yeah,
had
and
some great mentors in the latter half of my career, which I am extremely grateful for, that I wish I met sooner
yeah.
because I think, they really were trying to, they knew I had potential when I was really
Mm,
doubting myself, right? So that's when it's like,
mm.
oh man, I wish I worked for you sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so powerful when someone can hold that knowledge for us, right? And
Yes,
really see us in our potential, in our possibility, in our capacity when maybe we have a hard time seeing it in ourselves.
exactly. And believing in yourself, that's hard. And it's like, oh my God, would I really trust me? Like, doubting myself, that's not good.
Oh. And so what advice or what would you, if you could speak heart to heart with another woman listening to this podcast and whatever, what there's a part of your messages resonating with her, what would you say to her? What would you say to her?
I think if you feel it in your gut that something doesn't feel right, you should
Mm,
say something and do something because you end up, again, it goes part with that guilt and shame and everything. You carry that for so long and it
yeah.
weighs so much, and it affects you mentally and physically, right? And
Mhm,
I wouldn't wish some of what I've experienced on anybody, right? But
mhm.
at the same time, we all have our own journeys.
Yeah.
But again, just being true to yourself for one thing. And you're the only person who can take care of you.
Mm, beautiful. And so is there any information that you would love me to include in the show notes? I can put a link to the Ottawa Basketeers
Oh, that'd be
if you would
nice.
love. If
Yes.
is there anything else
Uh,
that that I can share on your behalf with our listeners?
I think that's the only. I used to belong to all kinds of pages, right? And I'm trying to wean
Yeah.
myself off,
Yeah.
especially organizing, because I thought I just needed a little kick to get me going. But in
Yeah.
reality, I had to go through, maybe in denial of what I have experienced trauma
Mm,
wise, and really coming to grip with it and saying, okay, this is what actually happened. You know,
yeah.
over all these years, it just wasn't one incident, it was a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff, right? And just trying to really, God, I kind of a loss for words now.
Yeah. But I love that recognition, and I think that we can all do this when we've experienced trauma. And as a human being, we all have, I believe, various levels of that just by virtue of existing on the planet,
Yes.
that we all deal with it differently.
Yes.
And depending on where we're at, depending on our capacity, depending on our resources or supports, like lots of factors, we may or may not be able to look at it, right? And so we might use these as coping strategies,
Yes.
and that's okay.
Yes.
That's okay.